So we're moving on to Unit 3, and this is the very beginning of Unit 3. Is we're going to take on today appositives. So the whole topic of Unit 3 is called Grammar Magic, Things Aren't Always What They Seem. And we're going to focus on two different chapters, Chapter 7 and Chapter 4. So we're going to jump to Chapter 7, think about how we just finished this whole unit on verbs, and we're going to work our way through the form classes. So now after we've left verbs, now we're going to focus on nouns. But we're going to find that our author is going to use a new terminology for us. So the whole unit's going to be sort of about grammar magic, that things aren't what they seem, and we're going to look at what we call nominals, because saying noun is so last year. So you don't need to write this down, just simply absorb this. But a nominal is basically another way of saying, well, isn't a noun a nominal, or what does this word mean? So the author's going to start showing some, or using rather, some new terminology for us. So all the noun phrase slots that we've actually learned about in Chapter 2 are actually called nominal slots. We just call them noun phrase slots because it was just easier to teach it that way. So we talk about subjects, direct objects, indirect objects, the subject complement, which is like saying a predicate nominative, like a pattern 3 or a pattern 5, an object complement, like a pattern 10, or even the object of the preposition. Those are all places where we kept chucking in nouns. But you don't have to put a noun in those slots. So they may be filled with words or even phrases that are not exactly nouns. So what the author does is the author says, well, a noun is just one option. So now let's take a look at the other options which do the same jobs. So I want you to remember that a noun is a type of a bigger category called a nominal. So noun is just one option that you have. Here are the other options that we're going to approach. We're going to learn about appositives. We're going to learn about the gerund, the gerund phrase, the nominal infinitive, the nominal clause, and the anticipatory it in this chapter. Unit 3 is usually a pretty tough chapter, so make sure you take good notes, ask questions, do all your work, and I think you'll be fine. I might even sneeze, I don't know. Anyway, so I want to start with appositives. So you have a worksheet on appositives I want to kind of guide you through. So let's take a look at this sentence, which says, we easily diverted Mr. Marsh's focus by mentioning his favorite topic, NASCAR. Well, NASCAR is what we call an appositive. It's renaming the word topic. And it comes from this word appositive, which has this root. Let's see if I can bring up my pen. Posit in there, which means to place. And really what an appositive is basically there's a noun, topic, and there's another noun right next to it, which is renaming that noun. So they're kind of sharing the same position. They're doing the same job. It's like saying, we easily diverted Mr. Marsh's focus by mentioning NASCAR, or by mentioning his favorite topic, where NASCAR is renaming favorite topic. So they're two nouns sharing the exact same position, and therefore they've been positioned or placed in the same exact spot. I could say, knowing this unit would be difficult, the class chipped in and tried to get on Mr. Marsh's good side with a gift of bribery, a dozen donuts from Byler's Donuts. Well, literally, the word donuts is renaming the word gift. The gift and donuts are sort of the appositive that donuts is renaming it. So you're saying, hey, we try to get on his good side with a dozen donuts, but I'm renaming it with that word donuts to the word gift. So those are two, where this is the appositive, donuts is renaming the word gifts. So I want you to also notice that on this one as an example, that the two words are not exactly next to each other. And that happens. Sometimes they don't have to be exactly next to each other. So sometimes you'll have some words in between to kind of break it up. But once again, that donuts is renaming the gifts. So let's begin with this idea of the contents in the bottom right drawer of Mr. Marsh's desk. An unhealthy assortment of gummies and sweets mysteriously disappeared over the weekend. Well, here's assortment, and assortment is actually renaming contents. Look how far away that is. That assortment is so far away from the contents, but really what you're saying is the contents in the bottom right-hand drawer of Mr. Marsh's desk mysteriously disappeared over the weekend. Or you could say an unhealthy assortment of gummies and sweets mysteriously disappeared over the weekend. I want you to see that the word assortment is really renaming contents. So they're both sharing the same position. They're both serving as the subject. But we're not saying that both the contents and the assortment, but the assortment were the contents. So therefore, this is all sharing the same exact position, and we call this an appositive. So it's really important because we're going to have to write appositives when we actually take the SAT, as we learn about sentence combining, which is a very common question they'll ask. So let's take a look at an example. If I had these two sentences, the homecoming king and queen demanded their own lunch table that would be separate from the under-deodorized masses. They are our own student royalty, like William and Kate. What I want you to see is that really there's no real reason to repeat this phrase, they. because I've already stated who the word they are. And so I already stated that it's the king and the queen, and I might try to figure out a way of actually kind of combining these two sentences. And on the SAT, they oftentimes will ask you, can you combine these two sentences by basically cutting out superfluous or extra words? I'm like, yeah, maybe I could. So I realized that our student royalty, like William and Kate, is renaming homecoming king and queen. And therefore, I can really get rid of this cheesy sort of they are and just kind of tighten this together. So what I want to do is I want to take this and I want to shove it back up into the sentence. So when we're creating a positive, never change the first sentence. Change the second sentence. Take something in sentence 2 and embed it into sentence 1. And that's what the SAT would want you to do as well when you're actually combining sentences. Keep the original sentence, change the second sentence. So what I want to do is I want to take this phrase, our own student royalty of like William and Kate, and get it as close as possible to a word that it's renaming. It's renaming homecoming king and queen. So I'm going to try to get it as close as possible to that phrase in that first sentence. So I could say something like the homecoming king and queen, our own student royalty like William and Kate, demanded their own lunch table that would be separate from the under-deodorized masses. Now what I've done is I've created a positive. Student royalty is renaming king and queen, and I put it right next to it, and I've tightened this into a much stronger sentence. And this would be a correct answer on the SAT. This would be something that they would look for because you cut out the extra words of they are and you made a tighter sentence. So what I want to do today is I want to take a look at some examples of how we do it on a diagram. So I think a diagram is going to visually show you what you're manually doing in a physical sentence. Okay, so I'm going to take on this first sentence here in my next video. So I'm going to pause and restart my video and walk you through our very first example together. No, I don't want to keep my annotations.